Hey guys, and welcome back to another roundup of what's been going on with the road to 8th edition with Warhammer 40k. And it has been a busy week. There's been a lot of information coming to us now, and I'm going to be covering everything up until today in this video. So it quite literally has been a big week, as we will see. So we've had Warzone Damocles, we've had some faction focuses, so starting with Chaos Demons, Stratagems, the Primaris Space Marines, faction focus on Tau Empire, Indomitus Crusade and the Dark Imperium, rules about the Tactical Reserves, and finally another faction focus on the Drukhari, or as we like to call them, the Dark Elder. So the big week obviously hinting at the new Primaris Space Marine, so if you've not been seeing what's going on, we do have a new model for the Space Marine range, and we'll get to that shortly. So let's kick off with the Damocles Gulf then. So this is a battle between the Tau Empire expanding into the Imperium territory, if you're not familiar with your fluff background of this particular region. And I remember it quite well, going back to sort of 2008, there was a campaign event held at Warhammer World for the Damocles Gulf. That was the name of the event. If you've ever been to campaign weekends, you know they're typically themed around war zones or factions or famous leaders or things along those lines. And this back then was organised by a gaming group called the Tempest Fugitives. Way before Warhammer World took over their own events and created their events team, and just slightly after sort of the Dark Stars kind of era of campaign weekends at Warhammer World. So yeah, I've got fond memories of attending campaigns around this particular Gulf, this particular campaign area, but a lot's happened since then. So in recent 7th edition publications in this war zone, we've seen a campaign, we've seen a Space Marine Chapter Master die, lots of key Tau ethereal personnel die, and then pretty much the Imperium burned the system to hell with world-ending incendiaries, or at least they tried to. So if we look at our new galactic map, we can see there in my amazingly looking red circle where the Damocles Gulf is. And it's right on the tip of this new Cicatrix Malediction warp storm, which has basically put all the fires out. So that pretty much puts the war back on, but now this time we have Tyranids, Chaos, Necrons all in the mix, and the Tau have just tried basically more for a bigger land grab. And given the proximity of the Tau and the Chaos Rift, could this lead to, if we were to be really speculative, some kind of spiky bits sprue for the Tau? Who knows? But it's very exciting. I'm all for campaign themed events and campaign fluff leading into the sort of development of the 40k story, so watch this space on that one. So this week we've had a number of faction focuses, starting with the Chaos Demons, following in the theme that Games Workshop's been doing with their playtesters and external companies, or giving us a faction focus and an insight into how these particular factions are going to function in 8th edition. So the first one this week was the Chaos Demons, and the key point here we've got coming up on the screen: no more Screamer Stars because of the characters attaching to units. No more unlimited summoning, as we've seen from the last video. Your points have to be allocated to your total points count rather than having unlimited summoning. And then we've had some bits on each of the 4 gods of chaos. So we've got some information about Khorne and their special rules, Tzeentch and theirs, Slaanesh and theirs, and a little bit from Papa Nurgle himself regarding some Nurglings. I'll leave this up for you to read. Feel free to pause the screen and catch some of these little bits of information that we have on each of those special rules. So following on from the faction focus then, we started to get some information about stratagems, which in effect is how you're going to spend those generated command points that everyone seems to be, well, I certainly seem to be wanting to squeeze into my army as best possible. So in order to generate or to use stratagems, your army must be battle forged. You need to earn command points from your force organisation build. If it's battle forged, you automatically get 3 command points for your army. and then some characters can even give you bonus command points, such as Bjorn the Fell-Handed for being so uber. There's 3 stratagems that everyone can use, and then the rest will follow on and be army specific. Narrative and open play will have some extra stratagems to make it even more really cool and thematic. But match play, there's some limitations that you cannot use the same stratagem in more than once per phase. So some interesting ones and combinations to think about there. So these are the 3 that we've been given so far. So we have a single dice reroll, a counter-offensive and an insane bravery stratagem. As you can see, each of these could be particularly powerful at certain moments in the game, like the reroll of a single dice could be that last cannon's d6 damage roll, and you need sort of 2 or 3 wounds, and that's the typical time you roll your 1. You get a chance to re-roll that, as well as other scenarios where, you know, morale for example, or some other thing where you need to spend a quick command point, get that re-roll and hope for a more average or better than average dice that could swing that particular battle. Counter-offensive looks pretty good as well. So typically when a unit charges, we know that that unit is going to be going first, and now we can mess around with that particular order, spend some points and upset someone's particular strategy for those charges. And then finally, insane bravery. This is going to give you a chance then, if you're really worried about failing a leadership test because you've taken so many casualties and you're concerned that you're going to bust your leadership value by quite a significant amount and lose more models. This time you can choose to pass that morale test automatically at the cost of 2 command points. So it's always worth keeping command points in reserve in case you need to use any of these stratagems. Bear in mind they do have a scaling cost of 1 or 2 command points that we've seen so far.
Drum roll, please. Here we go. Who is it? Drum roll.
With that suitably awesome drum roll, we move into probably what's been considered the highlight or low light, depending on your opinion, on the Primaris Space Marines. So that's what I've been hinting at with the, it's been a big week. So we now have some new plastic models for the Space Marine range that are a little bit bigger than the last ones. So how did these guys come to be? So that we know they've been created by Belisarius Cawl and by order of Reboot Kellerman, going back 10,000 years before he got put in the fridge. They're genetically enhanced to be bigger and badder than a regular Marine, wearing Mark 10 Tacticus armour. Allegedly going to be bearing the same gene seed from their Primarchs, available to all chapters on the Imperium side. They carry a new bolt rifle, which is the same as a bolter, but has a 6-inch extra range and an AP -1. And so far we've only seen the Intercessor squad, which has no extra options, but we do have indications that the Primaris Dreadnought and other units are going to follow on from these. We've had some pictures come out, we've had a video, we've had an FAQ, and we've had some nice little bits of artwork. And you can see in the first picture here, looks like there's an awful lot of these in a Matrix style tank to create each of these new several thousand Uber Marines. They are wearing this new Mark 10 armour, and we have a profile to go alongside these. We can see they're a power level of 6, and then we can see effect of their abilities, faction keywords here, and some of the weapons that they've got. So we can also see now what the frag and crack grenade profile is going to be. But basically, if we look at these super new Marines, we can see they've gained an extra wound, whoopie-doo, and they've gained an extra attack. So 10,000 years of super hardcore research and development in the back dens of Mars, with all the money and all the tithes and all the gene seed they can possibly muster. They've gained a wound and an attack. So probably money well spent there. Either way, they're here to stay, and yeah, available to everyone in the Imperium faction, really. So we now move on to our second faction focus of the week, and this is on the Tower Empire. And there's been a lot of changes with our favourite super shooty army that seems to have been dominating most of 7th edition with its sneaky allied rules that people have been maybe abusing slightly. So what do we know so far with the Tau Empire? So we know the super big creature they have, the Storm Surge, which has 10 weapons, is able to fire all of those at different targets. If it stands still, it's now able to add 1 to its to hit roll. Before, I think it used to be able to fire twice. It can now fall back and shoot, which is against the current falling back rules, so it gives it more focus on the guns. Marker lights now give a reroll of 1s to hit. Well, certainly one marker light does. We don't know whether multiple marker lights have different impacts. Crisis suits can take and fire 3 weapons and have this falling back and shooting rule. And sniper drones can target independent characters. Now we've seen that with the faction focus with the rattlings already. This is really leading to the fact that snipers are going to be character killers, and we could see more armies fielding these to pick off characters. And we've even got the profile from the MV71 sniper drones on screen now. I think the key takeaway from me on this is that they are still drones. They still have a ballistic skill of 5+, so they're not going to be the greatest at taking characters down unless you start putting them in large numbers or adding marker lights or whatever needs to be done to increase that ballistic skill. This leads us on then to the Indomitus Crusade, which is some more background, some more fluff on Warzone. So we come back to our new galactic map. Just as a quick reminder of what's going on with the big warp rift splitting the galaxy in effect in a east-west split. And this particular crusade is focusing on what Reboot Kellerman is going to be doing about it, or trying to do about it, and what the impact from other races is going to have. So we have some background on what's going on with the campaign itself. So Reboot Kellerman has basically started to kick ass with his new Primaris Space Marines. He's created a bunch of new chapters with these new Super Marines, and is trying to sort of help out the Imperium and start doing his recovery and rebuild the Imperium into the image that the Emperor had created many years ago. So what does this actually mean background wise? So we know the Cicatrix Malediction, which is the super large warp rift, is affecting lots of worlds. Lots of planets are calling for help. On the far side of the rift then, as far away from Terra as possible, we have what's been classed as the Imperium Nihilus, which is the Dark Imperium. Basically the Astronomicon is obscured, so people can't really call for help that easily over the psychic links that they need from their navigators and so on. Baal and the Blood Angels look to be in trouble. They've got hive fleets closing in. Their successors are equally in trouble, all cut off from the line of Terra, and all look in a bad way. Hopefully that fluff then will lead into some good campaigns and some good source books that are coming up, but in the meantime we now move into Tactical Reserves, which has changed its format as well going into 8th edition. So what do we know so far then with Tactical Reserve? We know that not every unit can be placed in reserve. Deep Strike and Outflank Universal Special rules are gone, but we're going to get a new interpretation of how models arrive. Trigons, for example, can be placed 9 inches away from the enemy with a second troops unit and can charge the turn that they arrive. Obviously they're going to need a good roll on that 2d6, but match play uses the Tactical Reserves rule, which is just going to come up on screen now. Basically this is going to stop people holding too many models in reserve, and if you haven't got your army on the board by turn 3, they're going to be considered delayed, lost and forevermore gone in your battle. So hopefully for match play this is going to make some good improvements. Finally then, from this video we'll have the final faction focus of the week, which is the Dark Eldar, or the Drukhari as we're being told to call them these days. So these are the space cowboys that do lots of raiding and pillaging and all that good stuff. And we've had a few indications of how these guys are going to play. So we know that there's going to be some vehicle buffs. They're going to be fast, open topped, get to fire pistols into combat. The vehicles get a 5+ invulnerable save to shooting. They don't have to worry about heavy weapon modifiers when moving to hit. We've got some stats on the Dark Lance and Disintegrator, which look particularly disgusting. The Incubi now look to be quite good in the old combat phase again, which is going to be good to see some more Incubi coming onto the tabletop. And Witches have their 4+ invulnerable save in combat and get some rules to give them some -1 AP on those rolls. But the big thing for them is this no escape rule. So So with all the new rules about falling back and then, you know, sacrificing your shooting and so on, but giving you a better position on the battlefield, this rule is pretty handy for the witches. So if an enemy unit wants to fall back, you have to roll off, and only if they win that roll off can they actually fall back. So there's a 50-50 chance really that you're going to get to keep them on the battlefield in that combat where you want them. And notice, quite importantly, this is an enemy unit anywhere within 1 inch of the model with that ability. So if you've got quite a widespread witch combat going on and there's some other combats that are nearby, then you can force multiple combats to sort of stay where they were. Could be really good, could be seeing some interesting positioning going on here to try and maximise those combats, you know, perhaps with units of incubi or whatever supporting them. So yeah, quite a powerful looking rule there for us. So there we have it. It's been quite a busy week so far, and it is currently only Thursday the 18th of May already, so quite a lot to have gone through this week. Very exciting, lots of big changes. Looking forward to seeing what comes along today and for the rest of the week. And hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please feel free to like, comment and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on 8th edition so far with all the new changes that are coming in. Really appreciate hearing what you've got to say. And I shall catch you on the next video.